for anyone. If you believe in a technology, if you're a user of a product, you should feel a little bit like a stakeholder. And that's exactly what we've been building for the past 9-10 years.
We're joined by Kendrick Nguyen, founder of Republic, a platform that's raised over $2 billion in alternative investments.
The only thing that you know for sure is the present. You can remember things about the past, but if you do that, just pick the helpful elements.
A former attorney, Kendrick combines legal expertise with financial engineering to unlock and democratize private markets. With major partnerships like Temasek and Hamilton Lane, Republic is bridging traditional finance with blockchain and alternative assets. In this episode, Kendrick discusses the future of RWAs and why he's doubling down. Okie dokie, let's dive in. Tell us more. What's your personal background? If I'm not mistaken, you are from Vietnam as a first-generation immigrant, perhaps, and now financial innovation space. You're a leader in that. Super inspiring. So how has your background, let's just get that straight first on what it is and how that has influenced Republic's.
First of all, thank you so much for having me. And I'm, of course, very aware. I'm very fortunate to be a Punch Capital founder, Port co-founder. And I know the Punch Capital obviously invests in immigrant founders. And that's a part from my background I couldn't be more proud of. And funnily enough, because when you first land in the United States as an immigrant, as a child, you're like, oh my God, I don't quite fit in. I really want to fit in. And as time grew, as I got older, it became such an important part of my journey. But my whole family immigrated from Vietnam. And last one of 5 grew up in the Bay Area, right at around the time that eBay and Amazon, that whole narrative of tech, Silicon Valley, really began to hit mainstream, but we obviously didn't have any money then, and we read the news, but weren't in any way a part of it. And I think that had a lot to do with the desire to build something in the private markets, in the venture capital, private equity space that opens up the door for anyone. If you believe in a technology, if you're a user of a product, you should feel a little bit like a stakeholder. And that's exactly what we've been building for the past 9-10 years.
We had Bola Adegbulu on as our first guest. He's a Nigerian British immigrant who had an exit himself in the AI auto insurance space and then hopped over to the Bay Area to work at Stanford professor Andrew Ng's AI fund. And he's all about democratization as well. And that's what he's buzzing about now, having built that experience, and maybe he'll cull more influence in that regard and shape humanity. So, wonderful. We've got tech, we've got immigration. Any lessons specifically from your family in whatever they instilled in you toward, what characteristics do you embody, generationally rather? Who's Kendrick and what's your ultimate mission? You've touched obviously on democratization.
Shin, I love that question, and I don't think anyone has asked me that question before over the years, podcast or otherwise. But it happens to be a topic that I've been thinking a lot about lately. I would say there's one trait generationally, or at least looking at my parents, and I had fleeting interaction with my grandparents, but I think it's the same. And I'm not sure if it's because of the byproduct of a major war, that is the Vietnam War, and surviving that, but positivity and always look forward and just keep on driving forward and doing so positively, I think is a shared trait that I see across my siblings, my parents, and even distant relatives as well. And indeed, I think now it becomes like a principle in life for me because the only thing that you know for sure is the present, right? You can remember things about the past, but if you do that, just pick the helpful elements, the lessons, the things that drive you, things that, you find annoying, things that, bring you down. Dude, those things are now in the past. You have the present and the future to build towards. And so do your best, live a really fulfilled, meaningful life and try to make an impact. And you have your opportunities in the moment and make the best out of currently, the present day, and what's to come ahead. I think is a singular mindset that certainly it feels like a generational thread over time.
Positivity. That's something you exude to such a degree, it's profound, I must say. And it's hard to imagine how you master traveling from city to city and putting on events. And we had the pleasure of meeting initially post my investment and involvement with Republic in the past at the infamous Ritz Riyadh, right? About a year back. And just the way you carry yourself, you're an inspiring leader in that sense. And I'm sure that trickles down throughout your team. As far as the present, Naval Ravikant is a proponent of, well, he's got this almanac about how to get rich. And one of his comments is, I mean, it's a game, by the way, have fun with it. Provided you're living in the present, that's the greatest hack. So as we're veering into, here's the juicy stuff at Republic, crypto, or maybe it's better, correct me, it's RWAs, right? Real world assets. I'm a greenhorn on this. You want to get into how you came upon this realization? Maybe you're a co-founder, shed some light on that as well, and has kind of led to your conviction doubling down on that.
I mean, it does go back to AngelList and Naval in a way, Shane. I mean, AngelList, and for, those of you following the Punch Capital podcast who may not be familiar with AngelList, they really innovated and introduced the syndication model that allow for high net worth professionals like the doctors, the lawyers of the world who didn't have any access to startups to be able to come in to a vehicle and follow someone like Shane who can identify the next thing and deploy that capital for the entire group because syndication or SPV. That model, right, does democratize venture a little bit because it opens it up to more people. But long before tokenization or whatever else, when we launched Republic in 2016, the North Star, the mission division.
And to politely interject, sorry, Ken, that was a spinout of AngelList where you headed legal.
Yes, yes. I was and my co-founder Paul back then, we were like early I mean, I was employee number, I forgot, 14, 15th. Paul was probably number 11 or 12. And so not just legal and regulatory, but international expansion into Canada, into the UK, structuring the product itself, including the fund product. But yes, Angel is an institutional co-founder of Republic, a major stakeholder on the cap table. So we are a spin out. We were from AngelList. So from day one, the view and the vision has always been for me much larger than venture capital. I definitely think that how the wealthiest among us generate wealth and preserve wealth, the financial products, the range of financial products they have is, I mean, on the one end of the spectrum, and 99% of the population is on the other end of the spectrum, which includes a CD account in a Bank of America or Wells Fargo account, earn whatever interest rate, 40 basis points to now a couple percentage points, and virtually nothing in between. So had always believed that if commerce had undergone a transformation to a point where anyone can buy anything that's produced globally, truly anyone. Now, even in countries like Nigeria and Vietnam and Abu Dhabi, people buy things just produced everywhere. That wasn't the case for 40 years ago. In exactly the same way that right now, almost no one has any access to financial products because the infrastructure is so archaic and so inefficient and expensive to do, and legally is still like dated back to 80 years ago. So the belief then was that things technologically and legally would change such that finance will see through a transformation as, if not more seismic, than commerce saw through that transformation with the internet, e-commerce. So that was from the get-go. Now, real world asset tokenization, it just technological side of how do you fractionalize an asset into a billion pieces. And then you
Right.
add on the legal infrastructure in one and more country to make sure that one can invest and trade and buy these securities at ease. But this is not certainly from day one of Republic's inception in the ambition in the way that we look at the world.
Cool. So do you have any examples just to flesh out this concept of RWAs to a lot of folks who might be new to this? Is it nascent after all, or have we been missing something for the past 5 years at least? Or
The ability as Shane just said, RWAs means real world asset. Tokenization is the tail end word. That's the ability to wrap, to fractionalize any asset, may it be a building, a piece of art, a shares of a company, into digital representations in tiny pieces and be able to buy and trade those things. So no, RWA and tokenization has been around, or at least the story has been around since like 2018, 2017, 2018. I think there was a building, a hotel in Aspen that was purportedly tokenized and sold. Now, the interesting thing is because legal environment at the time was such that non-accredited retail, non-millionaires could not buy securities, digital securities easily. These things were fractionalized and tokenized, but only high net worth investors were able to participate. So it didn't deliver the volume, the scale, the tradability, just kind of like, hey, we can do this technically, but legally it didn't work. Only in the past 6 months that Republic now has both the technical and the legal infrastructure to tokenize, fractionalize any asset, introduce them to the retail public here in the US and beginning in other countries as well. Now, the demand, the volume, the tradability, that's specific to each asset. And we hope to introduce a few things that hopefully would get widespread interest and demand.
and your personal spike is having been a lawyer. I forget exactly where you had your training, but some
Yes, Shane, so funny. If I go back and tell like the preteen, 9-year-old Kendrick, who just basically newly landed in the Bay Area, I would have, I mean, truly the American dream, right? In no other country can I have my story. But yeah, I started out
love it.
as a securities attorney, worked in traditional finance, went back as a teaching fellow full-time at Stanford Law for 2 years before joining Angel. So securities law happens to be a specific area of knowledge that I think the main specialized knowledge that I have, and I think it's been so relevant because building in fintech. I think half of it is technical and capital market engineering, but people ignore the value of regulatory and legal engineering. The reason why I call it engineering is that if you just pick up the phone and have to call an outside law firm for advice on how to maneuver regulatory environment, necessarily you're not working at the forefront. You know why? Outside law firms are going to give you, true and tried regulatory framework. Anything that's in the gray area, you almost always are going to get the most conservative advice. As a lawyer, as a licensed attorney, trust me, if you ask a lawyer a question the person doesn't know, the if the answer is I don't know, the other answer would be here's an answer, but here's the most conservative answer. So the advantage of knowing and understanding of how laws and regulations work and basically piece things together and quantify the risk. That is very much an engineering process. And I think that's in a way, a specialty of Republic, combining technical and legal engineering to the capital markets.
Incredibly seeing into the future. And from what little I understand, of course, not an expert, from the way you operate is you like to keep things tight and right. So no question there. But again, if you could just provide some, like just flesh out some examples, maybe whether Republic is yet active in this space of RWAs or you're spearheading efforts to get into that?
I mean, the most active one is that if you Google right now Republic and Hamilton Lane, you're going to see some news articles on like Bloomberg and interviews and
That's right.
whatnot.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're introducing something that is first industry first. But we've done a few. I think last year we tokenized ownership interest in a soccer club.
Hmm.
English football club called Watford, the very first of its kind, that a percent of the ownership was fractionalized and made it available to fans to invest with as little, I think it's like 100 quid, $100 or so. But before that, back in, I think, 2021, we fractionalized and tokenized one song by a rapper named Lil Pump, Lil Pump, and the on a economic basis. So it's a new song that he was creating, producing, and a percentage of the revenue from that song would go back to the investor. And I think we raised and closed $500,000 for a single song tokenized by Lil Pump through Republic, I think within a day or less than a day. And so it has been a good number of like ideation introduced, tokenize, litigation financing, tokenize movies, just as an example, but truly the moment that it hits, prime time, like main stage, I think would just right around the corner. And I think in Q1 and Q2 of this year, you are going to see on Republic and in other places as well examples of tokenized assets that millions of people would want to participate, not 2,000 people or 500 people.
Yeah, that was actually a question I had in mind regarding the Hamilton Lane partnership. We're now seeing this become a bit more mainstream. Adoption is taking hold, and top tier asset managers are tokenizing offerings of one form or another. So how do you aim to collaborate? Or maybe we could just delve directly into the HL example.
Shane, if I may provide an answer in a more generic sense, because Hamilton Lane is yet to launch, I think the offering with Republic is slated for later quarter. And
Sure.
because it's a public company and heavily regulated, but if I may provide a few perspectives in line with what you had just raised. One, I want to kind of like deviate from the narrative of tokenization in RWA because it sounds technical. In reality, it simply means how do you allow everyday folks to participate in a small amount in things that used to require $1 million or more to participate. So when you talk about private equity funds or sports ownership, let's use private equity as an example. It's well known that private equity far outperforms the public market year after year after year. That's why private equity fund managers are very wealthy. And that's why you see family offices putting money in private equity. It simply means that it's a financial product that's available up until now for the very wealthy that yield consistent return. So say there's a fund that yield 10, 11% every single year. It doesn't deviate much, so it means low volatility. You can put your money in, consistently get a certain percent double digit, and if you want your money back, you're going to be able to get it back on a monthly or quarterly basis. Sounds awesome, right? Like who would put their money in a cash deposit account at Bank of America for 1 percentage point when you can put it in a product that is not locked up for 10 years, not binary, but consistent. Now, those products have been available for decades. It's just that it takes $1 million, $5 million to participate, to even invest. What we're doing now with technological changes and legal changes is creating the infrastructure so that these fund managers can allow a $500 investment in so that people can be like, oh, this is how it works. I'm learning more, even though I have more money, but I need to like get a feel of it and then participate more and more. Shane, my hope and goal is that a young teacher in Hanoi, Vietnam, or in Alabama or London or New York, when they earn that first $10,000 in savings, that they have more than just a CD bank account or some 401k that there's several level of fees, that they have the same choices in wealth preservation, and but that underlying infrastructure, legal and technical, that's what we are now introducing to the world with some global financial firm.
Fascinating. And hopefully they stack it up. I would imagine one barrier to Republic and therefore to is reaching the public effectively. How do you educate them in a way that doesn't incite fear and that seems quite credible? Because there's that mix of if something's new, people are leery of adopting it as a standard.
Such an important question, and it's a challenge and a question that we are actively working on it now because no one has done it before. So you and other community influencer, those who are following, play a critical role in helping educate, evangelize, talk about something new. So that's one. The second one, of course, is through just introducing the product through financial advisors, and we ourselves have our existing community. But what you touch on, I think, is critical here, and it's why I deem everything we've done in the past 8, 9 years basically an R&D phase. And the phase forward is the first true go-to-market. Let's take startup financing on AngelList. When someone is first learn about venture capital or startup investing, it may very well be that 5 out of 10 people think that, oh, if I just invest in a good early stage startup, pretty sure I'm going to get 10x or 100x of my money back, right? People just assume that that's the case. And I can't blame them, right? Because that's what you read in headline news, not realizing that even the best firms, maybe 5 out of 10 total loss. And then maybe a couple more barely make the same amount of money, and just one or two have binary results. If you make two investments, I don't know, the odds are you're going to lose all of your money. So that's a very high risk value proposition. Let's say you invest in a real estate, in a building. I'm looking out the window right now here in Midtown Manhattan. Let's say there's a low rise 10-story building that someone aimed to tokenize. Say Kendrick owns the building and he tokenizes it and he introduced. Well, the risk is that, like, does Kendrick own the company for real? I mean, what if he runs away? How are we gonna like track him down? So there's a risk within that, even if the asset is pretty, low in volatility. That's why we work with the likes of the Franklin Templeton, the BlackRock, the Blackstone. These are financial giants, and we want to pick financial products that is far less likely that anyone who's going to invest without full understanding would be so surprised with the risk. Because how hard is it to say in the past 20 years, this fund has never deviated below 8%, is a massive public company, and it has quarterly redemption. So if you don't like it, you redeem your money out. You pick products that people, even if they don't understand it, it's likely that their expectations are going to be met, and as such, they're a happy customer. That's why the kind of semi-liquid, liquid fund product with consistent return, I think, are the perfect type to introduce to the public at large when we talk about open a private market to the retail public. And then there's a
Mhm.
vertical, which
Okay,
is
let's get into that. Yeah, yeah.
the second vertical. Shane, are you a Philadelphia Eagles fan, or are you a Chiefs fan or 49ers fan?
None of the above.
Sure. Let's just say hypothetically you are a major Eagles fan. No?
Jalen Hurts inspired his team of women is it's an edge.
Yes. And now if they allow fans of the team to invest, but no one can invest more than $100 on a revenue sharing basis next season. Revenue sharing. I guarantee you that 95% of the fans may not understand what revenue sharing is. They've never invested in anything that's revenue sharing before. But let me ask you, if fans of the Eagles have the ability to put $50 into and become owners with an NFT on their phone, are they happy just from the experience? And maybe
Emotionally?
10% of that, and obviously no one is expecting to get rich, which is a $50 investment, right? This is like fun vesting for the experience. But it's the gateway so that 20-30% would read up this being their first private investment ever. They're like, oh, this is how tokenization works. This is how revenue sharing works. And maybe I'm going to educate myself and read more and look at other things. So I think those are the two main verticals or products that deliver what every business must aim to deliver: expectation of your customers. And in this case, our customers are investors. So either they're
Mm,
happy with the experience with a tiny investment, or they are happy with the consistent return of something that they've never had before. The high risk product in between, that's for subsets, and those are niche areas that over time will emerge.
got it. Cool. So establishing credibility and attacking it from bottom up and top down and having a little fun while we're at it to educate and get folks into the mix. What's an exciting personal investment, or is there some conflict of interest? Have you partaken in any or many Republic offerings?
No, they're they're actually, because there are rules and regulations around it. They want to avoid a scenario whereby Kendrick opens up a Vietnamese restaurant in Midtown with Shane and decide to like put that on Republic and pump it up, right? So any company that I have an interest in, there are parameters around whom and where they can be promoted. So I am quite limited in my ability to participate in deals originated by Republic.
Mm,
But in some cases, that's not a concern. I'm definitely very, very interested in the private equity products that we are about to introduce to the world. And side by side, I this is why I told my nephew when he's in middle school, in a tiny amount, I would absolutely, this is instead of like giving them money for like Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year recently, I just like, hey, here's $50, $100. I would, or through your parents, make an investment in things that like speaks to you and learn from it. But I'm very, very excited about the sports cultural assets and the private equity fund assets. I am an investor in a good number of early stage and mid stage startups, private company, whether it's AI or fintech or otherwise. But the latest obsession is on the private equity side and the cultural asset side.
cool. And credit to Republic, given my early involvement, I was an investor in Gagan Biani's latest ed tech company. Of course, he's the founder of public company Udemy, uh, unicorn and then some. So he hopped on Punchcast recently. He was episode number, I don't know what. But yeah, super cool stuff. And what else did I want to ask around? Well, paint you in as positive a light as possible. Right? Nothing super
I like to tease a little bit. So, because like,
just switching gears entirely, actually. Politics, I suppose. All the rage these days. Are you actively involved in shaping policy? Are you having discussions with leaders in Washington or elsewhere? And what's their sentiment?
Given our view that building in fintech, half of it is regulatory and legal engineering. What happens in DC is very important to our business, and I think the entire industry in the United States. And the same applies as we look to expand in other countries as well. There's no question that Republic is known for having done more than a couple handful a first-in-class financial product. We've done things today no other firms have done, and that means intense regulatory examination, audit, scrutiny, and we went through all of that, in the past 8 years, right? In the past 4 years, the regulatory environments for anything that is crypto related has been anything but friendly. So there's no question that the deregulation environment in the United States, and that's to be expected at least for the next 4 years, is a welcomed change for business of any type, but certainly for us and for companies building in fintech. I wouldn't say that I think that would be very much of a grandiose statement to say that I help shape policies or whatnot, but we do take a very proactive role in providing perspective and feedback to those that are, that welcome those feedbacks, whether they're at a regulatory agency, whether they're close to the policy making level at the White House, in Congress, and even at the state level. So even more so now in the past couple of months and likely in the year ahead, that we're going to be deploying more bandwidth, more resources, and myself personally into that effort, even more so than we had done in the past 8 years. And we had done a meaningful amount, but we'll ramp up that effort even more.
Exciting times. I mean, boring in one sense, politics, that's my personal sentiment, but super necessary and a lot to extract there.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing is when it comes to, I think, financial markets and securities regulations, what the United States does, there seems to be a trickling down effect, if not uniformly across all countries. Of course, it's not the case. That effect does very much exist in a good number of major jurisdictions, some of which are markets that we are looking to enter.
Exactly. I want to dive right into that. Just take it away from there. We want to get into expansion, acquisition. You're, again, traveling everywhere, Hong Kong, Abu Dhabi, SF. You spoke at Franklin Templeton's conference and so forth. So Miami as well. I was just down there for uncorrelated alts and some family office gatherings and so forth. So you're in the midst of all of this. What's your plan broadening out?
I think when we talk about private market transformation or retailization, similar to commerce, right? Or Uber, as an example. At first, it was just people in San Francisco taking car rides, and you expand it into Miami and New York and Houston and all of these places. And then, of course, when you go abroad to places like London or Hong Kong, you want to be able to use your Uber as well. The same applies, which is there's no reason why a tokenized 49ers should not be accessible to fans living in Spain or Abu Dhabi and Hong Kong. The difference is it is much more regulated to issue and trade securities as opposed to buying things. So the given our desire to connect the private markets and make it less, less compartmentalized by a country border, we have to aim to secure regulatory licenses, and oftentimes by acquiring or partnering with firms in a relevant market like Abu Dhabi or Hong Kong that already have these licenses, so that just like airports and airplane, JFK doesn't necessarily own the airport in Hong Kong, but once there's a partnership, a plane from Hong Kong can fly and carry people to New York and vice versa. So I would describe the work that we do, or that I'm undertaking right now at Republic, is identifying where the next 3 airports should be, and whether we're gonna acquire land and build that airport, or whether we're just gonna find Shane in Spain who's already looking to build an airport, and maybe we, become very good, strong, maybe even exclusive partners, so that we can fly, cross border. That's in short is our expansion strategy.
In short, I'd love to dig deeper. I'm just thinking offhand. As an aside, I may have a connection to a sports team that's pretty prominent, not directly, but somebody is representing them and tied into their. Well, we'll continue that conversation offline, but provide some examples, please. What are you most bullish on, geographically or
Yeah,
Specific
so
cases.
we acquire a large investment platform in London, Europe, and now operate a team out of Europe called Republic Europe. But after that, I think the markets that are most compelling, attractive to me in terms of a priority and a strategic importance is the Middle East. It has been for 2 years. To give you an example, since 2023, 2 years ago. I probably have made no less than 30 visits to various countries in the GCC in the Middle East. Mainly just even like understanding, relationship building, not, not fundraising. This is just to like go meet, understand, and formulate a view. And out of all of those meetings, the strong conviction and belief that this is going to be a major, much more so than it already currently is, capital of the world. I think that is gonna, within over the next couple decades, what we saw with Hong Kong and Singapore over one generation, half a decade ago, I think is. I mean, this is going to be so much larger than that. And I think that how savvy the retail public and the desire to build and invest in the local economy makes it very, very compelling. And the proximity, to Europe, to the United States, to Asia. So there's no doubt that Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, and the larger GCC region are together is a critical market for us in terms of expansion. And beyond that, Hong Kong, Brazil, and India, which I think is the largest market of it all, but one of the most complex. That's probably going to be, 12 months out.
Okay. And I'm thinking as well, you've mentioned, if I may broadcast this, you're backing by Temasek, which is a war chest out in Singapore, basically. They got funding to no end. And did they back a fund of yours? Does that have any relation to your pursuits?
Since they haven't done that announcement yet, if I may just share that, no, they are not an investor in Republic, but they are a business partner of ours
Oh,
across the fund investment in the Web3 space. But there's no doubt that there will be a more specific announcement on a very specific collaboration between Republic and Temasek. Hopefully later this quarter.
okay. Okay. Yeah. So exciting stuff. Anything that I haven't explored as far as acquisition that you would love to? I mean, just take the mic. Any?
I'll give you an example. Say in the US, acquisition doesn't mean just internationally. Of course, that's the quickest path to acquire licenses and to launch and operate in a new market. But the same applies in a different industry internally within the United States. I'll give you an example here. Say tomorrow, the NFL comes to Republic and say, we firmly believe that the future of the NFLs and of, professional football clubs in America involves fan investing. We don't want to build the infrastructure. We don't want to deal with legals and tech, but we want to run that whole platform. You guys just become our partner. So that is very much lend itself to a standalone company whereby Republic just support because it is so vast and has the potential of just owning and running with it. The same applies to, I don't know, real estate, music, movies, commodities. If someone is running 8 gold mines in LATAM and want to create, fractionalize, a financial product out of those gold mines. So we have been incubated and now we're looking at strategic acquisition so that we can expand horizontally as well.
And I'm thinking personally, I'm not for gambling. That's an uneducated viewpoint, I admit, but that has proliferated throughout the US anyways. And arguably ownership directly into sports teams would be a healthier bet to place.
I didn't track the online gambling space for, I don't know, a few years. I think the last time I looked into it until recently was maybe easily 2015 or so. And I was so surprised to see how much that industry has grown in terms of legitimacy. It used to be that it was so illegal. And I'm not an expert on online gambling laws, anything far from it, but it feels like, based on a more recent look, that it becomes much more legitimized. No, Shane, 100%. If you look at crypto assets that's available on Coinbase, Binance, wherever else, nothing backs underlying those tokens. Absolutely nothing. And so at the end of the day, it is gambling, isn't it? Which is like a wild guess on which ones can get more or less adoption. When you have true asset, it may be revenue of a team, it may be profit sharing, dividend payment, it may be a gold bar or the Mona Lisa. That's how and when the rest of the world are going to be able to acclimate, onboard themselves to crypto. That is, now it's just a technology that digitize and fractionalize assets and make it available to folks. I 100% share your view that it's a more responsible way than just guessing which one is going to get more adoption and not knowing why or how the value is being derived from.
I want to hop into a quick rapid fire round in just a moment, but we were diligencing one RWA company, likewise active in real estate, backed by Draper and so on, and got some diligence info indirectly from a co-founder of, I believe, Open Door, which Keith Raboy talks up, and I think they announce more prices or it's financing for mortgages and for homes.
What happened to Open Door? Is it like a thing still?
Well, fair enough, because their hot take was it doesn't work. Real estate, RWAs, it's not a space they were convicted in. So I guess it's a moot point.
Wait, so what is the question?
I guess just what's your counterpoint to that?
It's like saying that the internet doesn't work. The internet, all that it does is obviously enable informational transfer, and it's a technology that should apply to benefit, or like AI, that no matter your business model, it just makes things that much more efficient. It's a question of efficiency. Digitization and blockchain as a technology necessarily simply makes things much more efficient in the form of transfer of recording, of processing, of settling, no matter the space. So anyone that say that RWA doesn't work or that it's not relevant to real estate or whatever asset class, I mean, I don't have a response because it's so it's so misaligned. The real, a more, I think, thoughtful comment from that side would be it doesn't work right now because XYZ, and that's where we can answer with no, you actually are mistaking. These things have already been fixed. Just like AI, every passing month has become so vastly more capable, so has the digitization and tokenization for retail both as a technology and as a capability altogether.
And we may have to skip rapid fire. AI, let's get your opinion on that as well and how you're embedding it in the public.
I'm quite open and I can go longer. So there's no feel free to send rapid fires my way. I think AI and blockchain are the two technologies that will drive this transformation of finance. And if the internet transform e-commerce, and if smartphone and more capable internet gave rise to the share economy that is Uber and DoorDash and Airbnb and all of that, if all of that combined, the internet, smartphone, has drastically transformed commerce and shock-proofed the global economy in the past 20-25 years, then AI and blockchain, I think, will do probably 10x in output to the transformation of private market. It is truly an integral part of our everyday life now. And there's no doubt that it has a major role in our business model and in the future of finance in particular.
Force multiplier. Okay. Favorite book?
Stillness Speaks by Eckhart Tolle. And I think the notion that I live in a rather chaotic on the road, sometimes 4 or 5 countries every week, 18, 19 meetings a day. But the notion that when you stillness, silence, that you got to take time. And I think that's when the like insight about your energy level, happiness, even business insight. I think that's when those things rise unfiltered and not tainted by the insecurity, the stress, whatever negative emotion that you have in a particular day. But it's a short book, and I'm not necessarily, I'm not one that reads a lot of self-help or spiritual book, but Stillness Speaks. It's been an important book for me.
Sure. And I'm going to be vulnerable. I admit I'm a little nervous by default hopping onto these things, speaking with profiles such as yourself. Breathe. And my mom used to always tell me this, but I discarded it. Recently, I met with Lars Clausen, who encouraged me, among other things, to buy this Whoop, which tracks HRV, heart rate variability, which this shows you your balance between the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. He's the founder of 1KX. It's a crypto fund backed by A16Z with hundreds of millions under management, or at least 100 million plus. Really, really pleasant conversation with him. And
Shane, in
yeah,
very much the same line, and there's no topic that I love more, and I want to spend more time thinking and researching it. But I do think that human happiness or human health overall is dictated by, I think, just two or three elements: what you eat, how much do you laugh, and your breath. And I think if you do a quick exercise of scanning someone who's really not healthy that you know well, and someone who's very healthy that you know well, it's very likely that the person who's very healthy laughs a lot, probably quite aware and healthy. Watch what you eat doesn't mean you got to be a vegan or whatever, but you just got to be in tune every meal, and what you put in your body, you're actually aware of it and not doing it habitually. And breath work. That's why when you said breathing, I think it resonates very much with is a component of being healthy and happy.
yeah, it's physiological. Cool. Hobbies.
I had many hobbies like snowboarding and what have you, but I gotta say the one an enduring hobby is just engaging with people. Now, it can be close friends, it can be a random person in the middle of Times Square, and gaining insight from them. For me, I get so much enjoyment out of it, which is why I find my work now, so enjoyable. But yes, it's people.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I see people lined up outside the door there trying to attract your attention. So, last question. If you were, it's a little odd, bear with me. Credit goes to my marketing guy near it, the beard. If you were invisible for a day, what would you accomplish?
If I like physically invisible, like the invisible man.
Or what's something positive you would experience at least?
Wow. Interesting question indeed. That has always been one of the superpowers that I wouldn't mind having, if you ask me, next to like flying or whatever else. But to experience, to accomplish, it probably is the hardest question that anyone has asked me, because I'm not sure that and I've grown to be even more and more direct. And I also think that I have a pretty decent read of people. So where this is just me talking it out loud, when one's is invisible, perhaps one of the values is to be able to plant yourself in rooms and situations where people would not be comfortable with sharing information or otherwise if they were to see you there. So perhaps how about this? I would love to be a part of some of the PE funds investment committee assessment of the public, because I think they are try to be helpful and honest, but I don't think that they ever tell the whole reason as to why the narrative and the mission of what we do at Republic and RWA and whatnot. I've never heard anyone passionately disagree, have a different view. But of course, we have partnerships that didn't come to pass. Not because of there's another competitor, there's no other competitor. So I'm very curious as to why, in cases whereby we pitch, some giant fund on acquisition financing, and they come back and they're like, you know what? Not for us, not right now. What the real reasons are coming from some of the partners at the investment committee table who voted no.
Love it. So on a closing note, Kendrick, was a pleasure and honor to have you. Much continued success to Republic, and we'll catch up offline. Keep it
Be
up.
honored, my brother, and I can't wait to catch up with you very soon and hopefully see you in person very soon.
Great.